It's been over a year that I sold everything and went on a journey of solo travel and self-discovery. Throughout this whole period, so many of you asked me so many questions, so I decided to come to you and ask what is that you would like to know. And all of you brought me amazing questions, so let's get into it. Question number 1. What has surprised you the most that you may not have expected when you started? When I decided to go on this journey, selling everything and leaving UK was very scary. But when I booked my first trip to Lisbon, I was so scared. Hundreds of things were going through my mind. I was really wondering, is this the right move? Should I be doing this? It was so frightening to solo travel for first time, stay in a hostel. I really didn't know what to expect. And what surprised me the most was how incredible my first day was. As soon as I got there, I met people and ended up going to the streets of Lisbon, and they were having music and I felt I belonged. So this showed me that all these fears that I've been holding on and I've been avoiding to step into because of how scary is the unknown were actually preventing me from living the best life. We can only project and imagine what we have already experienced. Life becomes very abundant the moment that you start chasing these fears. I started this trip as living my dreams, and actually I realized that I was chasing my fears to live my dreams. So yeah, it totally surprised me how one of the most scariest moments in my life was one of the most incredible moments in my life too. Question number 2. What are the most easiest and difficult countries to travel? Well, that depends where you're from. So for example, Europe for me was very easy because I didn't have to deal with any visas or any paperwork. I just take a flight and go. So it all depends on which things means easy for you, it means difficult for you. So for example, if you go to Asia, it can be difficult if you have stomach problems. It can be difficult if you have fear to sickness like I do. So for me, Asia, it's more overcoming the fear that is in my mind. And I found when I was in there, it was very difficult for me because I couldn't have a good diet, and that affected my mood and that affected my sleep, so then affected my experience in that place. So I wouldn't say there is like an easy or difficult country to travel more than the paperwork. So again, well, depending what easy and difficult means to you. Number 3, do you get any privacy in hostels? Well, no. If you want to have the experience of a hostel, that means you will meet people. But you want to have privacy, then you can get a private room. But that will cost you same or more than a hotel. So it all depends on your budget. If you're trying to save money, but you can increase a bit your budget. When I really wanted to have a bit of privacy, but I couldn't afford anything, a hotel or like a private room, I will find hostels that had these curtains where you can isolate yourself. So people will know to not bother you when you're there. Number 4, how did you get all the money to travel? This question gets asked all the time. Let's get into it. Simple and easy. Savings. I was in UK for 10 years and my whole time in there I was saving money. I was saving money because I was craving safety, and I thought getting a home will bring me safety. I had something happen in my life that it made me realize that I was very unhappy with the life I was living. I was very unhappy in my own body. I seemed to constantly be in resistance, fighting against myself. I nearly had everything that I thought it was going to bring me safety, and I realized that I wasn't safe because I wasn't safe in here. I stopped everything that I was doing in that moment, and I thought, what is something that I wanted to leave but I hadn't because I was scared? And I remembered I always wanted to go traveling. And then I asked myself, what's stopping me? Money. I dig down more and more and I realized money wasn't the issue. You don't actually need that much money to travel. What was stopping me was my fear. What was stopping me was myself. What if I did it and I failed? What if I did it and it didn't work out? What if it meant that if I wanted to do it, I had to stay in hostels? I had to do it in a cheap way. I had to do it in a way that wasn't luxurious and all of that. What if I had to sacrifice everything I built for to live that dream? And I was like, well, maybe I have to. In that moment where you're thinking that, I thought, if I don't do it now, if I don't move the pieces now, I won't move from here. I will stay where I am. So in that moment, I decided this is it. I sent an email to the company I was renting the house and I said, this is my month notice. And I went like, oh, this is it. So I decided to sell everything, to take all this money I saved to buy a place. By the way, it wasn't by far, I couldn't buy a place, but it was the entry for a place. I'm going to travel until this runs out. And when it runs out, either on my search of this traveling, I'll find a way of making money, or I'll stop and I'll find a way into making money then. The future can't wait. I'll worry when I get there. And that's how I've been traveling till now. Question number 5. What is the most frivolous, I don't care how much it costs moment? Easy to answer. This is a trip that cost me the most money journey, and it was the last trip I did. And I decided I'm going to put everything that I have left to this trip, and then I'll figure out what happens after. And that was Route 66. Route 66 started as an expensive trip, but ended up being a very expensive because things didn't work out. There was a lot of changes, a lot of problems with the camper, and a lot of problems with the bookings. And therefore, I had to double book things. I had to stop and decide. So I did it. I was bold and I did it. And I went for it. And actually, when I went for it, things worked out better than I expected. And actually was able to have some money in return because I said, I am brave enough to go for it. So the money wasn't going to return to start with. Things didn't look bright, but I risked it. Some things are worth the risk. Question number 6. Did you feel lonely while traveling alone in a camper van? And the answer is yes and no. It was a process. To start with, I loved it because when I started this trip, I was staying in hostels a lot. So finally having my space was like, ooh. And then silence happened. And I had no signal on my phone and couldn't distract myself. And then I had to just sit there. And I was like, oh, this is what silence looks like. So that pushed me to have to feel a lot of emotions that I had ignored. I'm a hopeless romantic person. So I had a heartbroken at the time that I had to heal. This whole travel process gave me the time to heal. Not just that, but heal every single time that I just hold on into this pain because I didn't want it to deal with. And then also that allowed me to then expand my heart and then start giving that love that I felt I lacked. But actually, I was lacking that love because I wasn't giving it to myself. So then I had too much time to just deal with all these emotions that it didn't give me time to realize how I was alone. Once I started doing that and I started loving myself, I started feeling very comfortable being in my own company. I started embracing this being alone. And I realized that lonely and alone don't go together. Actually, you can feel lonely around the wrong people. I felt lonely most of my life because I chose to have people around so they could feel the noise in my head so I wouldn't hear my noise. So I was lonely. And for first time, being alone is when I didn't feel lonely. I started embracing who I am. I started loving who I am. And I was like, oh my God, I am a hypersensitive person. I feel so much and I want to feel this much. And I started crying a lot. I cried of joy. I cried of happiness. I cried of fear. I cried of everything because that's me. That's who I am. And I started laughing in random moments. So no, actually, I don't remember much of me feeling lonely more than maybe the first few days. Question number 7. Is it safe to travel alone as a woman? Yes and no. And I don't mean that just about traveling. It's something I never stopped myself to think until a friend of mine said, I like to experience traveling in a man's body for a day. And I was like, never thought about that. So we decided to talk with other people in the group. And the guys were like, I never thought about this or thought about that. We have to have eyes everywhere. Like I have to be hyper vigilant and I embody more of a masculine energy when I am outside because I feel more safe than if I am in my feminine. It's very interesting and very exhausting and very tiring, but because I've done it my entire life, I never thought about that. So I think like as a female traveling alone, it's absolutely fine to do it. You just have to be very aware. You might have to do things a bit differently than men will do, but I think the most important thing of this is your mind. So let me explain. I found that the women that I met, they were very scared. They were still doing it, but they were very scared. More things happened to them than the ones like me, that I'm just like, whatever. Did things happen to me? Of course. But because I wasn't as scared or as scared, I was able to overcome it. I didn't allow the fear to define me. If you're afraid, you're going to start unintentionally attracting more things to happen to you. Just think about it. When you're negative, more bad things happen to you. When you're positive, everything seems to shine. The mind has a lot of power. So I think even if you're a man or you're a woman, try to trust. Try to know that things will happen even when you're at home. There is certain countries that you have to be more careful than others. Educate yourself about where you're going, but don't overly obsess. If you're gonna start researching, it's like Google. Google is gonna tell you you're gonna die tomorrow because you have whatever. Don't overlook at it. Inform yourself, educate yourself, and let it go. Question number 8. I was like, did I do it right? What is next for you? Well, this is a great question, and if you have the answer, please let me know in the comments. I'm joking. In this moment in time, I have taken a little break. Firstly, because I am really behind of my editing. Also, because for a whole year, I haven't stopped. Yes, traveling seems like a holiday, but when you're traveling the way I am, it's different. It's very exhausting. Constantly moving. Every time you go to a new country, you have a lot of stimulation and a lot of things happening and a lot to learn, and it's very, very exhausting. When you stay in a hostel, you don't rest the same. And then when you finally stop, you have a lot to do. I've not just been traveling, I've been recording the whole time. I've been editing also when I can. And I haven't had a single break from social media or from traveling for a year. Right now, I'm still working. This is not even like an actual break. My plan is to edit everything. I have something coming up next that it's different to what we're doing till now. I'm still going to be doing content and they're still going to be traveling, but it'll be different content. And I'm not going to spoil you what's going to happen yet because I like keeping a secret because what's life without drama, you know? Exciting. We have to obviously make some of that to keep doing what we're doing. Thank you so much for joining me in the Q&A of today. I'm sure I still have a lot of questions to answer, so leave in the comments below any questions you have. I will do a second Q&A answering all of that. I will see you all very, very soon. Bye. Sorry, I am trying to do a video here. Do you mind? Are you laughing at me? What has surprised you the most? You have something to say? We're gonna wait in here. Excuse me. Hola. Can you just wait maybe like, I don't know, 5 minutes? Maybe a bit more. I'm gonna talk a bit more until someone actually... Ooh.